Well, Josh Frydenberg is a passionate Melbourneian and, of course, the Federal Treasurer, a man who understands that there is a limit to how much you can just constantly borrow. You have to grow the economy so that eventually it's a self-sourcing pudding. Now, sure, $1 trillion in debt. I understand the budget deficits this year. But as a fundamental principle, he's still trying to work back to that idea. An idea that Lygon Street, Melbourne, is filled with people who pay rent, employ people, pay taxes, and try to build a city that can be called the most livable in the world. These are not right-wing talking points. These are fundamental statements about what country are we? A bunch of people who elect politicians to play daddy, or a bunch of people who want them to get out of the way? Can we show that Lygon Street stuff again? Because I really want you to see the empty streets. If you're sitting comfortably in the freedom of Sydney, if you've got your feet up in Western Australia going, let's keep those bastards out. That's the reality of one of the busiest streets in Melbourne for restaurants. That's the reality. Josh Frydenberg noticed it and had the temerity to say this today.
Any delay in Victoria for opening businesses does impact jobs. And there's been a callous indifference by the Victorian government to the loss of jobs in the state and the plight of small business.
I repeat, more than 500 people have taken their own life, and more people have attempted to take their own life during the lockdowns than the entire year last year. I don't know how many of those people owned a business, but I bet there's at least one.
That's all he does. He's not a leader, he's just a Liberal. He's just a Liberal, and all he does is play politics every day. And I just don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's right.
That's the reaction. That's the reaction. Lygon Street, Carlton, empty. Not just empty because of coronavirus movement, but the shops are empty, which means the person who owns the building is not getting an income, which means the people who rent the buildings are not creating incomes for other people. Yet his reaction when the Treasurer of the country, the guy who's coming at this from the perspective of growing the pie, oh, they're just Liberals. Now, I get it. There is Team Red, there is Team Blue. But surely we can unite around fundamental principles like an Australian's ability to determine their own future, not one that the government has already got pre-filled out for you on a form, where the only decisions you have are, am I a boy, girl or other? And the rest of it has just been decided for you. That's not the country that any of us live in, but that is the country that currently exists in way too many states. Your family can't visit you for Christmas. Your family can't come to your bedside if you're sick. Your family can't come to your funeral. You can't go on holidays. When compared to the rest of the world, we are sitting pretty. Even Victoria is sitting pretty compared to other parts of the country. But it brings me back to one thing that I want to send as a very clear and absolute warning to people that are watching us right now in regional Queensland before you have to vote in a couple of weeks. The people watching us in Western Australia who will vote next March. This was what Daniel Andrews said, word for word, on the night when he won the last state election.
Those who today could not see their way clear to support our positive and optimistic plan, we will still govern for you. We will govern for all Victorians, regardless of how you voted.
Now, they say this a lot, but clearly it's up to you to decide. Does Daniel Andrews want to govern for all Victorians? Or does Daniel Andrews think if you own a business, you must be a Liberal, so who cares?
That's all he does. He's not a leader, he's just a Liberal. He's just a Liberal, and all he does is play politics every day. And I just don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's right.
Imagine if a Liberal leader had that attitude about traditional Labor voting groups. Take your pick. You know what the outrage would be. But because we're now back to Team Red, Team Blue, Dan good, ScoMo bad, the person who is responsible for the second wave that has led to not just 800 people dying as a result of the virus going nuts in Victoria, but people who've taken their own life because of the consequences of not being able to determine their own future. Tomorrow, the hotel inquiry reopens in Victoria. Who knows? Are they going to reopen to have a look at more evidence, or are they just going to say we'll be a couple of weeks late because the photocopier doesn't work? I don't know. The last time they had one of these special announcements, it was to delay the whole thing by another 6 weeks. So to those who automatically think, there he is, Team Blue bloke, Sky News prime time, that's why he's bashing away at Chairman Dan. Bullshit. I'm rageful about the state premiers who are trying to extend their moment in the sun to determine whether you can be truly free or not. And I refuse to let this pandemic take that away from us. Refuse. I'm going to govern for all Victorians. Unless, of course, you're just a Liberal.